Welcome to ZakDTV, the place for interesting news from around the net. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 3 little inventions that are going to have a huge impact on our world. Let's get right into this. First up, a team of researchers from the Sapienza University in Rome, led by Roberto Di Leonardo, designed new micromotors that are powered by bacteria. These things are so small that you need a microscope to see them. He states that our design combines a high rotational speed with an enormous reduction in fluctuation when compared to previous attempts based on wild-type bacteria and flat structure. These microbots are so tiny, it's ridiculous. Actually, here they are in motion. They control these microbots by directing a special strain of E. coli, which is light sensitive, through an outer chamber into a little chamber on the motor. Then, as they're excited by the light, they all swim in unison. This causes a rotation very similar to a water wheel. And by adjusting the light intensity and speed and intervals and stuff like that, they were able to get these motors to turn at nearly the same speed, as you can see in this video. The amazing thing about these is, like in that video you just saw, those little swimming things were bacteria. That's how small these motors are. They expect to be able to use this one day on small objects that can swim through the bloodstream or through a body of water. Basically any super small robot that needs a motor to move. And heck, my next one needs a motor to move. Scientists at the California Institute of Technology, led by Ali Hajimeri, have come up with what is the smallest camera ever. While right now most of our cameras and our cell phones and stuff are about the size of a small pill, his are the size of a grain of dust. That's right, these are dust-sized cameras. They have no moving parts and no lens, which helps get rid of that focal depth that's required to focus in with our modern cameras. So this will be able to take a close-up or a far shot with the same accuracy. They do this with what's known as an optical phased array, which uses computations to do what the lens would do, namely manipulating light to form an image. Right now they're using receivers in an 8x8 grid, so it is an 8-bit picture, as you can see here, so the resolution isn't very good yet. Even though it doesn't have a good image yet, this apparatus is 1/15th the size of a human error. Dr. Hajimeri believes that to get the same resolution as the modern iPhone has, you would need about 1 million of what he's calling these grating couplers. If you consider the space between each one and stack them together, it would have an area about the same as the camera on an iPhone right now. The big difference here is that it would be 1,000 times thinner. And he also believes that while these are the ones they're making in a laboratory, once this made it to production and they perfected the technique, it would be even smaller than that. The uses of this are just ridiculous. Like I said with the motor from my last story, you could put this into a human blood vessel to run around and take photos. Use a whole bunch of them to make a lightweight telescope that we could put in space, or an extra high-powered telescope to use from the ground. In the one article I read about this, they had an excellent idea to scatter them in the wind like dust and let them float around and just take pictures everywhere. Conspiracy theory guy in me though, that sounds like a horrible way to track everyone on the planet at one time. You wouldn't know if the dust bunnies under your bed are watching you or not. But still, an extremely cool idea, and definitely something that will change our future. And finally, let's look at a hyperallergenic electronic sensor that can be placed on the human skin and worn indefinitely because it's breathable and extremely flexible. Researchers at the University of Tokyo Graduate School of Engineering, led by Professor Takeo Someya, I know I'm mispronouncing these names, just bear with me, developed these sensors using a nanoscale mesh that's applied to the human body using water, kind of like those temporary tattoos. Unlike a temporary tattoo, the nanofibers in this actually are small enough to bond to your sweat pores and fingerprints. They need any little bump on your skin and they can adhere to it. That's pretty spectacular. They're built using a polyvinyl alcohol and a thin gold layer that can transmit electrical currents. In fact, they show one here lighting up an LED on a person's hand. That's a battery up on their knuckle. So that is proof that these will carry electrical current, and they've been put through a test of 10,000 flexes. So they don't deteriorate over time. You can sit there and bend your hand 10,000 times at least, and they will still work. They have used these too to perform electrocardiograms. They can detect electricity in people's muscles. So they figure this will be a great advance for sports medicine or home health monitoring, or tracking us like cattle. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for stopping in. If you like what I do, go ahead and click the subscribe button. It's going to show up down here. I do this 5 days a week. That's Monday through Friday. I do a live show on Saturday with a short on Sunday. So I hope to see you again tomorrow. Until then, have fun and be safe.